oh yeah, this is you know, Aunt Jackson, now Aunt Phoenix. Now the interesting thing about the storytelling is, notice that we have been able to know what were the thoughts of old Phoenix Jackson all the way through the story, right up until this moment in the story. And now all of a sudden, we don't know what she thinks anymore. Eudora Welty doesn't tell us. Instead, the old woman just sits there and there's a barrage of questions, right? Especially about her grandson. And it's here that we find out why she's taking this long journey, right? Her grandson swallowed lye. It's like poison. It's like soap. And it hurt his throat really badly. And so there are times when he will die if he doesn't have the medicine, because his throat will start to close. So we find out why it is that she's there. And of course, at the very end of our story, they will give her a nickel. She will decide she's going to buy her grandson something nice. And then that's the end of the story. Now let's jot it in our notes what's significant here, even at level 1. We do not know what. It's often interesting to ask what's left out of stories. We don't know what. Well, we don't know if she makes it back to her grandson or not, right? We don't know what happens to her grandson. Does he live? Does he not live? This is not part of the story at all. A Worn Path is a story that celebrates the heroine taking a journey. But her journey is only halfway done. She's gotten to the city. She's obtained her medicine for her grandson. We don't know whether she's going to make it back or not. Jot down in your notes at level 2B, why do you think it is the case that Eudora Welty doesn't tell us anything about whether the old woman, Phoenix, makes it back home? Why do you think she leaves that out of the story? Notice the final 2 words of the story, going down. In other words, the journey will continue. One observation to answer this is that, well, it's right there in the title, a worn path. In other words, this woman has walked this road over and over again so often that the path is worn out with her feet, and she knows how to go, even if she's, even if it's, one of those things where there's obstacles or whatever, she can just make the walk, all right? All right, so there it is at level 1. Let's now work level 2 and 3. Let's start at level 2A. Major themes or messages of a story like this one. Well, there are several, aren't there? Let's go ahead and list them. One, obviously, is the distinction between youth and old age. Notice, every time in this story that a young person contacts Phoenix Jackson, how does that young person treat Phoenix Jackson? Positively or negatively? We would probably use the adjective condescending, right? Very condescending. In other words, the young person kind of sees her as, kind of crazy, old person, doing crazy things. Of course, we, the readers, know, this is the second major theme message of our story, that in this story, the old woman is not doing something for herself. The motive for her journey is for her grandson. She is taking care of somebody else, isn't she? Right?
Wait, so what happened?
Think about in relationship to the end of the story, right? So we don't know what's going to happen to the grandson, right? We just know that she's coming to get medicine for her grandson, whose throat is swollen shut because he swallowed the poison, the lye. But we don't know what's going to ultimately happen to him in the story. We have to kind of speculate. One way we can say this is, another message, old people are tough. And so we have this sense, this old woman is going to make it home, and she's going to go ahead and save her grandson. And the likelihood is her grandson probably will grow up. Why? Because he has her. She's taking care of him, we might say. Okay? Of course, at 2B, so many things we've already pointed out here. The archetype of the hero's journey, here, it's deconstructed in powerful ways. So we don't have this amazingly handsome male warrior Odysseus or Aeneas on a journey. We have an old woman. But the journey is profound nonetheless. Some have argued it's even more provocative because it's not just about going home. It is about, for Phoenix Jackson, saving her grandson. She is making a sacrifice. She has made this sacrifice many times before. Right? All right, let's turn to level 3. If we do anything with great stories, it's we somehow relate to them. Let's begin, of course, by relating to other titles, to other texts. We've already mentioned the classic epic poems, right? The Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid all tell about journeys. Dante's Inferno, Milton's Paradise Lost, Beowulf, the classic Anglo-Saxon poem, all tell about journeys, and certainly we're playing in that same motif. But let's ask this question really quickly. When you think about your favorite movies, about an old person helping a young person, do you have a movie that immediately comes to mind where in the movie an old person does something to help a young person? Or what's your favorite movie about an old farm, an old person? Somebody, for example, who's kind of tough, kind of witty. Notice how she's able to obtain the money, right? But is taken for granted, maybe we would say. Okay? Finally, and most importantly, let's try to relate this story to ourselves. I think I began my conversations with you by talking about a student who came in. He had already read this story and he said, dude, that has to be the most boring story I've ever read. Can we say this out loud without insulting Eudora Welty? This is a boring story. It can be reduced to a single line. An old woman walks through the woods to get to the town to get some medicine because her little grandson is jacked. There it is. We just reduced the entire story to one line. Am I right? But wait. I think we might be missing something. And we want to now pay attention to what we might be missing, because this story can come alive for us once we make this observation. Why is she going to the town? Her grandson. Without her going to the town and getting the medicine, what will happen to her grandson? Die. Question. Does her grandson know? Does he have any sense at all of what Grandma's doing? Answer, probably not. Does he have any sense of the sacrifice, for example? The challenges that she's going through? All of the obstacles to get there, the way the people treat her, and then all the obstacles coming back home? Does he have any idea at all what sacrifices she's making for him? Probably this minute. Doesn't know. Which begs a really interesting question. Now, let's make this story real. In your life, watch how this works. In your life, who are the Phoenix Jacksons? In your life, who are the people who have sacrificed for you? Are you ready for this? Without you realizing it. See, let's go ahead and say it out loud, and I don't mean to insult, but this is what makes a child a child. A child is someone who expects people to do things for him or her, for he or she, without ever realizing the value of it. Question. When she gets back home to the cabin and she gives the young grandson his medicine, do you think that grandson is going to give a long thank you to the grandma? No. Why? Because it's a child. It's what grandmas are supposed to. Children just kind of assume medicine just shows up. Just like children assume the food in the refrigerator just shows up. Right? They open the fridge. Mom, how come we ain't got no... They open the cabinet. Mom, what's up? Dad, what's up? Dude, I need... Dude, you need to give me... Who are the Phoenix Jacksons of your life? Who are the people that have made your life possible? And you have never said thank you. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, this is an interesting story all of a sudden, isn't it? When was the last time after finishing a meal that somebody made for you that you probably didn't have a thing to do with? When was the last time that before you pushed away from the table, jumped up and ran off to do whatever you got to do, your face filth or whatever it is? When was the last time that you looked at the person who made that meal and said, hey, can I say something to you? Honey, are you okay? No, hear me out. I need to say something to you. The meal you made for me just now. The meals you've been making for me for a long time. Thank you. Thank you. You had to. But you did it for me. And that adult looks at you and goes, honey, you okay? What's the matter with you? The very fact that they have to ask the question tells us all we need to know about children getting medicine from an old woman who walks through a woods and risks her life. And a kid doesn't even know. Why? Because that's what kids do. They are stupid. Not in an insulting way. They're just unaware, stupid, ignorant. In other words, this is the profound story within this story. In your first year of life, you do not survive without a Phoenix Jackson. Feeding you, clothing you, taking care of you. You wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Phoenix Jacksons in your life. You wouldn't be here. So you've told those Phoenix Jacksons, thanks for the journey. Thanks for the medicine. I'm speaking now, not literally, but what? Metaphorically. How many ball players went through an entire season, never once told their coach thank you? Not once. Not once. I like to tell the story of a student of mine. She was a great volleyball player, and she was doing that thing where she's the coach for a bunch of young kids on a team for volleyball over at the community center, and she says, it's just insane. They've given me 15 of these little girls, and it's like herding cats, and the only thing they care about is the fruit roll up and the little juice box at the end of it all, and I'm trying to coach them, and they're all running around there, and then it hits me. Because I obviously have homework I should be doing called McGee's Annotations, and here I am with 15 of these little kids running around trying to teach them how to serve underhanded and try and help them learn what it's like to play volleyball. And then it hits me, she says, I am a very good volleyball player today, but I started on one of these teams when I was little. And the one who was coaching me was probably one of your students, she said to me, who had homework to do. I never ever told her things. I just grabbed my juice box and run out of the gym. Yay, another practice. Never occurred to me to say, thank you. And she said, now I'm a celebrated athlete. Why haven't I seen this? Why haven't I said thank you to all the people in my life who were Phoenix Jacksons for me? Why? Answer, because that's what kids are. That's what defines a child. You will know you're no longer a child, not when you can drink your beer legally. No, that's such a sophomoric way to think. You will know you're no longer a child when you finally realize there are Phoenix Jacksons in your life that made you who you are. When is it going to happen that you say thank you for that? When is that going to happen? Answer, when you grow up. Think about the power of this observation. This grandson will never know the sacrifices that his grandma made for him until long after the fact. Right? When he, for example, is having to take a journey through the woods, and then it occurs to him, dude, I could have died if it hadn't been for my grandma. She's the only reason I'm alive. I better go tell her thank you. By that point, what are we going to know about grandma? Right? Some of the Phoenix Jacksons in your life are still alive, because some of them aren't. Think about this. You are not sitting in 303 if it wasn't for your great-great-great-grandma. You're not here. You're not here. You don't exist. Unless, of course, you spent some time studying your ancestry, you got no idea who that was. You know she existed. It's a fascinating realization to realize we live in our little hut with our little blanket around us. Notice the word picture. With our little mouth open like a bird, waiting to be fed. That's the word picture. Eudora Welty doing a fine job of drawing what that little grandson is like back in the hut. Waiting, just waiting, waiting. Reminding me of that student, a freshman, so we can blame it on that, who's on the phone out there in the lobby, screaming at her mother to come pick her up. Wham! Slams down the phone when she has gotten concession from her mother. I know this student. I make eye contact. I said, so you need a ride? Yeah, I need a ride. I said, don't you live right across the street from our school? Well, yeah. Well, why don't you just walk? It's too hot outside to walk. Well, of course, I've told this story, and a lot of my juniors roll their eyes and go, man, I can't believe that. Sure you can, because you've done the exact same thing. Unless, of course, I'm wrong, and the person who made a meal for you last night you said thank you to. Or the person who gave you the clothes you're wearing you said thank you to. Or the person that gave you 17 years of their life. That's called your life and their life. Oh, what? You're the prize your parents get? No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. You cost them everything. You don't give them much of anything. But that's called what you do. All right, the other side. This is even funner. Question. In your life already, have you been a Phoenix Jackson for anybody? Do you take care of anybody? Or is your life just about you? Do you have the ability to take care of somebody? Older brothers who take care of younger brothers or sisters. Older sisters that take care of younger brothers or sisters. The next time you're in a situation where you have to take care of somebody younger than you, think about Phoenix Jackson and ask this simple question. In the entire story, does she one time say, boy, he better appreciate what I'm doing or I ain't doing it again for him? Not even once. That's what the word sacrifice means. You act without expecting a reward. That's called Love. That's what it is. That's what love is. You behave without expecting a reward. All right, I'm going to do this, but boy, she better say something about it or I ain't never doing it again. No. It's what Wordsworth will say in his famous poem, Tintern Abbey, little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love. That's called your life. That's called your well-lived life. That's the life of Phoenix Jackson. Are you ready for this? That's the life of the heroine. In other words, Eudora Welty will take an epic poem like the Odyssey and reinvent the heroine, the hero, as somebody who is giving of oneself for somebody else's good, for somebody else's benefit. Question, when are you going to be that person? That's your goal. Your goal isn't to grow up and make a lot of money. Your goal isn't to grow up and be famous. Your goal is to grow up and be Phoenix. That's your goal. Of course, the beauty of the Phoenix motif is you can get old and then you can resurrect out of the ashes. It's a brilliant name, isn't it? Isn't it a brilliant name for a heroine who has got the ability to resurrect herself, to rise again? She's fallen on her back, she's picked up. It's her life, a life of sacrifice. Wow, what a challenge. Notice how we moved from level 1, it's a dumb story about an old woman who walks through the woods, to level 3. This is a story which, if read well, challenges us, not just for today, but for the rest of our life. Why not live the rest of your life as a phoenix, providing for those? Because guess what? As a high school junior, you are living a life in front of a bunch of middle schoolers who are watching you to find out how to live as a high school student. What kind of life you showing to these people? Are you a Phoenix Jackson to the younger? You must be that for the rest of your life. That is what our country was founded on. That idea. That's what makes America an amazing place to be. because that's foundational to what we understand is our founding thinking philosophy. Right? We take care of each other. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's why Phoenix Jackson makes her well. She wants her grandson to be happy. It's not about her. It's about him. Brilliant. Well, there you go. Eudora Welty's classic, A Worn Path. I hope you've learned something. Thank you.